Many South Africans have been very hard on the Afrikaners. They are saying that they're not patriotic. But one of the things that the Afrikaner community did, led by AfriForum, was to say that one death of one farmer is enough. They are saying that crime in, farming towns, in farms, it's enough. And we do not do that as Africans. Black lives or African lives do not matter to us. We do not raise questions when there's mismanagement, when there's corruption. We sit, we observe, and we have discussions. We do not hold our leaders accountable. And what is happening now is that instead of, holding our leaders accountable, instead of having cross-border engagements as Africans, we are instead looking at this man as an option, as an alternative to this mismanagement, to lack of governance. But at the same time, one must also say that there's been a lot of progress in the continent. There's been a lot of progress in Ivory Coast. There's been a lot of progress in Tanzania. There's been a lot of progress in Botswana and many other African countries. But the question is, why do we look at Traore as an alternative? Because the reality is that what we see on social media is not reality.
Wait, you speak about him in particular?
Yes, what we see on social media, what we see on TikTok, what we see on YouTube is not reality. The reality is that you've got millions of women and children who are displaced in Burkina Faso. There's no water, there's no electricity. And the question for me, which is pertinent, and many of us are not asking this question, what is happening to the minerals in Burkina Faso? Where are the minerals of Burkina Faso ending at? The reality is that in the past couple of years, Russia and China in particular have been exploiting Burkina Faso. That's why it's not a coincidence to see Traore in Russia. The other reality is that you have Wagner Group, which has been running this propaganda machinery to ensure that we've got this strong man. Every time you open your phone, every time you go to social media, there is Traore. So we are not looking at these things. I mean, a normal person should be asking, where is this where is this information coming from? Why are we bombarded on a daily basis? And who is doing that? This is not coincidental. And as a communicator, you know that some of these things are not coincidental. We also know that the Wagner Group is very, very strong in Africa, and they thrive where there is chaos. Because what this means is that they are able to extract minerals easily. So that's what has been happening primarily in the Sahel region. And my fear, Panuel, is that there is a humanitarian crisis in Burkina Faso. And no one is talking about that. We're not also talking about 40% of the country that is led by Islamic terrorist groups. So no one is showing some of these things. No one is doing that. But then what happens? It means that women and children can be trafficked. It means that the poorest of the poor are not able to get the aid that they need. So for me, it's an indictment. But of course, from a political side, I'm excited that Africans are starting to ask questions, that Africans are starting, to say that, if there is this perception that this particular leader can do such a thing, it's possible in our own countries. But if you were to compare many of our countries with Burkina Faso, with Niger, with Mali, you would appreciate South Africa, for example. You would appreciate Botswana. You would appreciate the infrastructure that we have, the sanitation, the water, and so forth. But lastly, let me state this. What is amazing is that just last month, the IMF was in Burkina Faso. Yet what do you see on TikTok? What do you see on YouTube? Traore has rejected money from the IMF. Traore has rejected the West. So for me, it's an indictment because the IMF has been to Burkina Faso. And in fact, if you look at these discussions with the IMF for a loan, they started taking place in 2023, a year after Traore took power. But you do not see such things. You then get an impression that governance is a simple thing, that you can have one strong man taking power and tomorrow people will have water, people will have sanitation, people will have food and so forth. What Africa needs, we don't need better dictators. We need better institutions. We need our people to start taking accountability of their own affairs. In South Africa in particular, many of us are just observers. We do not hold our leaders accountable. Consistently so, it's the white minority that is taking our government to court. And they are very, very consistent. And we're not. So I'm just saying that we need to really look at ourselves as Africans. But also, what is also interesting to me is that Burkina Faso recently Traore recently went to meet Putin in Russia. But where is Putin going to? Putin is having engagements with Trump.
That is true.
So
they have a decent relationship.
Oh, yes, they have a decent relationship. Whilst the very Russia and the very China are saying abandon the West. They have close relationships with the West. They trade with the West. But then why do we need to abandon the West so that someone can come in? Because countries outside of Africa, they need Africa to be in a continual state of chaos. It is easy to take our minerals.